No one in this world can you trust. Not men, not women, not beasts. This you can trust.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Glory of Golden State Gaming. I'm your host, Swamp Swimmer, and with me, as always, the pan to my Tinkerbell, Vespacian.
Oh, wow. I still constantly am amazed by which one you give yourself and which one you give me, but thanks. Good to see you, man.
So we just went through my round one of March to War 2022 in Portland, Oregon, and we are now on to Vespasian's. But before we get, actually, I'm going to reveal one thing. Let's see here. So as we all know, Vespacian usually plays Highborn Elves, but in this tournament, he is playing Sylvan Elves. Very exciting. I'm excited about seeing some Sylvan Elf games. But before we get into the battle report, I just want to ask you some very personal questions. But no, why did you choose to go Sylvan Elves? Where do you think Highborn Elves right now are in the meta, and where do you think Sylvan Elves are in the meta? And I definitely want to hear about Highborn Elves because you're definitely the expert on the channel about Highborn Elves. So that's a pretty broad subject. But what do you think?
Yeah, it was something I sort of built my my elf army with the idea that it could play either any of the three factions. So I wrote up some background around sort of the different parts of this particular kingdom and why they would be Sylvan Elves, High Elves, Dread Elves essentially. So I've always had this idea in mind, and I have gotten a few games over the years in with Sylvan Elves. I think before this tournament it had been a couple of years.
Yeah, it's been a while
since I'd played. Yeah, I was I've been playing Highborn Elves a lot, and so I was interested in just kind of like a little bit of a change, and also I was pretty. I felt like the patch was very, very kind to the Sylvan Elves. I felt like the army had a play style that could really work, in the meta, and then it got cheaper, sort of like your beast herd list, right? I think this list that I took, got something like 250 points or something like that. And others got even more, like 400 or 500. So I was excited to kind of test some things out. I also, as much as I love dragons, I also am a big fan of the treeman models. I think that they're really cool. So I was excited to get those on the table, and yeah, just wanted to try something new. I've been hammering, through Highborn Elf lists for months since the patch update, and just couldn't really come up with something I was happy with. I did one of the online tourneys, and I had the worst tournament performance that I've ever had. Full stop. And so I was like, well, if that's not a good mandate to try something else out. So yeah, I was excited to pick up the Sylvan Elves. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I mean, I think the High Elves got hit, pretty hard. And at the same time that a lot of other books got some pretty substantive buffs. So I think that High Elves can still be competitive. Still have a way to play. But I was excited to play something a little bit more mobile, a little bit more kind of flexible, I think. And also I wanted to, well, you'll see in the list, I'll talk about it, but some things that I wanted to try that are a little different. So yeah.
Cool, that's exciting. I'm just excited to see some Sylvan Elves. I'm excited to see you branch out. I should probably branch out a little bit more. I've been playing a lot of Beast Herd, so 5 games of Sylvan Elves. I love it. Let's do this. You get paired into, I'm sorry, I don't remember this gentleman's actual name, but all I know is his nickname is Toots.
No, I think you might have copied it wrong. His nickname is Rumnog, but his name is Joe, and I'm yeah, Toots is the Dread Elf guy.
Oh, I totally did this wrong then. I'm sorry. Dread Elf player. Are you sure? I was checking new recruit and I thought it was right, but anyway. My apologies to Toots, but what's this person's name?
So his first name is Joe,
Joe.
and his I think his handle is Rumnog, and so Joe is I think has been getting back into Ninth Age for, he said, about a year, but this was his first sort of his first tournament with the OgreCon, so he was excited to try them out. And he has some awesome, you can see, I got some, hopefully some decent pictures of his. He has some cool Charlie miniatures, I think it is, TXARLI, that are really, really neat. I liked them a lot.
I did look at the pictures really quickly, and the models are freaking cool. But we'll get there in just a second. First off, if you are interested in not only Vespacian's list, but a list of all the armies in the tournament, there's a link in the description below to both a podcast of the Pacific Northwest guys. Their podcast is called the Mid-Table Maniacs, I think it is. Mid-Table, something like that.
There you go.
And then also a list review from Skaven and AZ. But go through your list. Let me hear it.
Yeah, so True Father Ancient, Adept Divination with the Binding Scroll, Avatar of Nature, which I think is a steal at 585 points.
Yeah.
6 attacks, strength 7, AP 4. He's pretty beefy. Thicket Shepherd, BSB, the Oaken Crown, who of course goes in the 5-man Thicket Beasts down there with Champ. Druidism Adept, because with trees and Thicket Beasts, it's always good to have Druidism around, with Crystal Ball and Lightning Van Braces. So the Magic phase, this is one of the things I wanted to try to test out, which is, a no master kind of like light Magic investment.
Yeah.
Total casting, the Magic investment for this is like 400 points for 5 spells, with 2 lures, a magic missile, right? And then also I invested quite a lot, because I understand that Sylvans need help with this, in anti-magic, right? So a Binding Scroll and the Crystal Ball.
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely.
And then 25 archers with Deception, which is the redeploy banner. I was really, really excited about this. I mean, I think everybody knows that deployment is a critical phase of the game, and this is kind of like a get out of jail free card. It's a dead drop. You can drop it anywhere and then redeploy it at the end. Which I was excited to try out. And then 3 units of 5 Heath Riders. These are the scoring ones, with light lances, shield, musician, and champ. The Thicket Beast unit of 2 Force Eagles for Chap, 9 Pathfinders with a champion, and 2 units of Sylvan Sentinels with Sylvan Blades, 9 each. So lots of shooting. This one comes close to maxing out the shooting cap. I think it's like 52 bows out of 55.
Wow.
It's got the scouting pathfinders. It's got a lot of mobility, a lot of shooting, and then a big unit of Thicket Beasts and two trees to run around and block stuff and pound stuff into submission. So I like the look of this list a lot. It's mobile, flexible, hard to take off, flexible magic phase, some good synergies, I thought.
Yeah, I was thinking the 25 Sylvan Archers, I feel like, is a big unit of archers. But with the banner deception, it changes the game a little bit, because that's your one not mobile piece, and you can just redeploy it, which is awesome.
Yeah. And also, it's a great combo with Stars Align. Early turns, that becomes a must stop, because you got 25 of those guys pretty much always hitting on 4s. And then re-rolling to hit, it starts to become pretty intense barrage from that unit. So yeah, there's some good combos in there.
And definitely the Tree Father Ancient, Avatar of Nature, and Thicket Shepherd are 3 tough ass characters to get through. That's a lot of tough wounds, tough slogging to get through wounds. So I like that a lot. This is a really interesting list. I feel like it's not meta. It's definitely different. So we'll see how it performs. I'm very curious to see how Binding Scroll with Crystal Ball worked out.
Yeah, I was having an interesting conversation with Derek and at the end of the tournament, about how I liked Crystal Ball. I think I there was actually not a single time that it made the difference, right? So that's what you sort of hope for, is those moments where it's like, oh, I wouldn't have dispelled it if it wasn't for the crystal ball. But I do also think that it allows you to use your dice a little bit differently. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I think that there are some cases where just a second binding scroll, or obsidian rock, for example, in a key unit could achieve the same or better than the crystal ball. But it was nice. It felt like an insurance policy. It was like, I'm not going to get, ideally I won't get outdiced 3 to 5, right? It feels safer, I guess.
Yeah, but doesn't the one thing that worries me about the crystal ball is that it has to be your first dispel attempt. So
Yeah.
like
So there's some counterplay to it, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of counterplay there in my
can,
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on the fence. I'll spoiler alert. My future lists that I'm building currently don't have it in there. I felt like I probably I could save 15 points into Obsidian Rock and get probably about the same out of it. But I'm still thinking about it.
Okay. Let's talk about his list. Let's see here. He's got
Yeah.
this.
So
go ahead. You go through it.
Did he do? Yeah, good. Okay. So there was a funny little thing where when his list was submitted, he'd misclicked and put Rotten Jaw instead of Firebrand on the pyromancy wizard. It's the same price, and honestly, when I saw it, I was like, well, why does he have Rotten Jaw? He has no kin eaters. So then later he was like, oh, I made a mistake, and I was like, oh, great, an extra pyro spell and a breath weapon that I have to face. So he's got 2 adepts, honestly, which I think is is a pretty good setup for ogres, and he's tooled them up, right? So he's got, if I understand this correctly, he's 4 channels, right? And then he's got 6 spells, and he can get more veil tokens when he's in combat with the ritual bloodletter on the guy up top.
Yeah.
Those are not, and they're not slouchy adepts, right? So they can do some stuff. So anyways, he's got a mammoth hunter. Ben described this guy as all gas, no brakes, right? So he's like strength 8, 4 or 5 attacks, D3 wounds. So like if he gets the charge, and survives, he's a monster. So this was somebody I wanted to take off early. He's got a pretty flexible, kind of tanky BSB. Looking at it, I think it would be better if he had that 18-inch bubble. I think that cult leader thing or whatever it is such a auto take. He's got 2 big units, so basically like 2 stars, 1 bruisers, 1 tribesman. He's got a Merkvet unit with the Ogre pistols. Kind of an atypical build because it doesn't have the poison on it, but still their shooting will be pretty solid. Yetis, I think, for vanguarding the Mammoth Hunter, 2 saber-tooth tigers, a Stratapult, which is rough for my archers if he gets a hit off there, 2 units of bombardiers, and a rock. So I think I sent you my evaluation, but I think overall I thought this was a yellow, right?
Hold on.
Amount of magic.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah, Rumnog. There's his name. The amount of magic missiles that he can bring between the 2 casters can be really tough for all of my elite archers, right? He's got a lot of range damage between the 2 units of bombardiers and the shooting pistol vets and the Stratapult. So this is so you can see what I said here, right? So it's a pretty shooty list. The primary combat threats are pretty even. Like I think the Thicket Beasts stand up to the respective stars one-on-one pretty well. Yeah. But I have to get his shooting off, because if he gets a big pie plate down on the archers early, or gets a couple magic missiles off on the Pathfinders or the Sentinels, then he can start getting the shooting advantage, and that can get difficult. So yeah, I felt like this was a fairly even match, list to list. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You're both pretty shooty. He's got some game changers. Like the Rock could maybe go up against one of your tree guys if he gets the charge. I don't know. I think this is swingy for you, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
This is marked as deployment in Vanguard.
So this is deployment in vanguards, right? So here's a great example of what I love about this list. So he won the choice for sides, and he put me on the bottom. This was Dawn Assault, right? So I had the dead corner in the left.
Yeah.
Right. And this was 100% the right decision for him. He put the house in the middle of my deployment zone. And it's and it gives him, because of where the hill is, right, he has an opportunity to kind of counter move where I come up, right? If I push up onto the hill, he's going to hit me with 20 things, right? So
yeah.
So I think it was the right call from him. I dropped to go first, right, because I've got the scouting pathfinders and the redeploy on the archer. So I dropped everything. The archers were in that dead zone behind my forest, right? So you can kind of envision where they were when I dropped everything to go first. So then he sets up across from me. He's got the dead zone in the upper right of this picture. I think he sort of just deployed on the 24-inch line. I think that he might have been able to maybe bend his line a little bit and mitigate some of my first turn shooting. I think would have been a better call from his part. But anyways, we can talk through it. So on my side, I've got Unity Heath Hunters, the Avatar, the guy with the whitish guy with the sword is always the Avatar. The
Willow Tree,
the 2 eagles behind the house. Yeah, a unit of Sentinels. Remember that I dropped first, so I just put them in a flexible position. The archers were there, the thicket beast with the shepherd, the other unit of Sentinels, if I recall correctly, and then the 2 units of Heath Hunters over on the right, and then you've got, I think, the divination. You can kind of just see the tree in the middle there, the divination Tree Father Ancient between the thicket beast and the Heath Hunters. Yeah, right there. And then I ultimately scouted the pathfinders there, right? And then on for him, he had the Mammoth Hunter with the from left to right, the Mammoth Hunter with the Yetis vanguarded up, the Rock, Dog, 2 units of Bombardiers, the Bruisers with his BSB, the Tribesman with his Thaumaturgy Mage, the Scratapult, and then in front of the Scratapult is the Merc Vets with the Pyro Mage and the Saber-Tooth over there, the other cat. So what I do, as soon as he deploys, I see an opportunity to redeploy my archers and use the scouting pathfinders to put basically, like 75% of my range pressure can go against that unit of Merc Vets with the Pyro Mage turn 1.
I see.
Yeah. So I think that so that was kind of my thinking behind that. Basically, I put the archers in a place where they can move up 4 or 5 inches, be in range. The pathfinders could move out and be within short range. The sentinels in the center can swing out behind the archers and also shoot. So basically, the only thing I'm giving up is that other unit of sentinels behind the house from a shooting perspective.
Yeah.
So I felt really good about that, either depleting or taking that unit off early and forcing his Pyro Mage to kind of hide somewhere. Something would be a big turn 1. So that was the way that I went about this.
Interesting. Are you worried about this Mammoth Hunter on the left, or are you going to try to take care of him with the Avatar?
I definitely am, but I don't want to let him get in because he could take the Avatar off if I fail to kill him. But I have more mobility, right? So I can pull back away from him where he is. He's just going for a full court press over there. I think it would have been better to sort of angle him in more centrally for him. But I think he just wanted to try to maximize the Vanguard. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is marked of top of 1 movement.
Yeah, so basically my thinking here was left to right. I wanted to pull back, get out of range of his Yetis and Mammoth Hunter, start working on them with the Sentinels, because I want to get that Mammoth Hunter off as soon as I can. I'm able to bring both trees up into my forest. He can shoot at me with the bombardiers, but I'm out of charge range of everything, and it creates some counter charges if he decides to come into the Thicket Beast with his tribesmen. I was able to position the Thicket Beast so that his bruisers can't see them. So he's eligible for a charge with the tribesmen and the Merc Vets and the Stratopole, but he can't get in with the bruisers.
Gotcha.
So I felt like this kept me pretty flexible while also bringing the thickets up onto the center. And then on the right hand side, you can see I continue with my plan, which is that I move everything up within shooting range, and keep the Heath Hunter units ready for counter charges and kind of moving around the flanks in later turns.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty happy with how this turned out.
Yeah, it's a good turn one movement for sure. This is marked of end of
So
top.
now, so this is the end. Yeah. So he's just starting his movements in his turn, right? So what you can see is that I get So there's something missing there. So basically, I get stars align up on the archers, and between the Sentinels, the Pathfinders, and the Archer unit, I wipe the Merc Vets and the Pyromage.
Wow. Wowie, wow.
Yeah, so that was a big, that Pyromage, I think is the difference maker in this match for obvious reasons, and to get both that and probably his strongest shooting unit off the board turn one without firing a shot or casting a spell is a big win. After the battle, I talked to Joe about it, and I was like, you just shouldn't have that shouldn't have even been a possibility, right? So I think that alpha strike potential from the Banner of Deception with the Archer unit and the fast moving elite archers, this is a showcase of how that can work. So Joe starts his move here, and you can see he's starting to move some stuff around. So I think I've got the picture after his.
It's the start of top of two.
Yeah, so this is the beginning of my turn. So essentially, Joe moved up with the Yetis. He moved the Mammoth Hunter out by himself, and then he's got the Rock there. I think he created a little bit of a traffic jam for himself. They maybe making it hard to charge both, but I think he was trying to just kind of find some positioning that he liked. And then he moves up with the bruisers to be able to threaten the central objective and start to see around the hill so that I can't easily do what I did last turn.
Yeah.
And he's, I think, justifiably fine with taking those two trees into the bruisers, because I think that's a losing battle for them, and the thickets can't see him, right? So he's managed to create a good spot there. He moves the Sabretooth up on the right hand side, I think maybe just to kind of gum up my lines, and then he goes after I think with with the Stratopole, and maybe one or two other, I can't remember, but definitely with the Stratopole, he manages to take off, I think, like 4 or 5 of the Pathfinders. You can see they're depleted up there. Yeah.
That hurts.
That hurts. So Pathfinders are tough, but that's that's a big loss, but relatively happy given I'd taken off a lot of his shooting. He didn't really have great targets for the Bombardiers. He was essentially shooting 6s and 6s into the Avatar, and failed to do anything. So then in my turn, you can see you can see the dice. I'm charging with the 2 Heath Hunter units into the 2 pieces of chaff, basically, and then let's see. I think unfortunately I teleport us from this like a turn or 2 ahead with the next picture.
Yeah, this goes to bottom.
Yeah. Okay, so go back and I'll tell you the rest of the move. So essentially, I did see an opening. The thickets had enough march to march forward, basically like right up in the grill of his tribesmen up there, and be out of the arc of the bruisers, which I was pretty happy with that positioning. Kept me within 6 of the center, and it puts pressure on his tribesmen that have that have the other mage in there.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and did that. I basically just pulled the tree fathers back away from the mammoth hunter and the rock, and then I bring my two sentinel units over, and I take off the mammoth hunter. He doesn't really have much armor, and so I got like I think 4 or 5 poisons and a couple of wounds, and he went down, which was fortunate. I do take off the saber-tooth over there with the heath hunters, I think pretty typically. And sorry, on the right.
Yeah.
And then on the left, I go in, I take off one of the Yetis, but fail to kill the unit, and he does a couple of wounds, so we stick around, basically.
Yeah, I feel like that's not the best matchup there for you.
It's not great. I think I had done 1 or maybe 2 wounds with the Sentinel shooting the turn before. So I was sort of like, I was hopeful that I might, I knew I'd take off at least 1 model, which I think minimizes what he can do in return. And I guess I was just hopeful that I might be able to take him off, because I think they maybe only had 4 wounds left. But wasn't to be. I think I left them on 1 wound. That's fine. And then in his turn, he goes for the charge with the tribesmen into the thicket beasts.
Okay.
And I think, yeah. So this one, in my earlier analysis, I felt like in the long run I win that. I did have Stars Align up on them, so they were re-rolling their hits. So he brings the tribesmen in. He moves the rock up on the left. He's able to get out of my line of sight with the avatar. And just kind of stay in a threatening position, and he kind of just adjusts the bruisers a little bit, staying on the objective. So at that point, we're pushing the objective in the bottom of 2.
Okay.
Neither one of us gets a point.
Okay.
So he brings the tribesman star in. I'll sorry, because then we can teleport to the next picture. He brings the tribesman star in. And I used my binding scroll because he's only got 3 spells left, so he just gets off Rod of Battle, and he comes in. He doesn't do much with the impact hits, and then the thickets with re-roll the wound. I think out of a total of 20 attacks, I think I do 17 wounds with the thicket piece. It was pretty. I mean, I was hitting on 4s re-rolling, right? Yeah, I just got a lot of hits, and then it's 3s with no armor, and I rolled really well there. So I just put through an absolute boatload of wounds on him. He does, I think he does like 4 or 5 wounds to me, but it's not enough. I auto break him and run him off, and he basically runs almost all the way to the board edge. It doesn't go off, but he's pretty far away. I think he rolled like an 11 or a 12. And so I have the opportunity to pivot and flank charge the bruisers with the thicket beast, right?
Yep.
So I go in there and break him in my top of 3, right? Break the bruisers. He rolls another like 11 or 12, gets away from me. I don't catch him, and now we're at the start of bottom of 3, right? So what happens in bottom of 3? His tribesman star fails. He has a decimated check and runs off the board. Right now, admittedly, it was the mage, right? Was the general in there, and he just runs off. The other thing I guess I did in my turn 3 is I got the pathfinders and one of the Heath Hunter units into the Stratopult that had a couple wounds remaining, and I managed to take that off. And then so now in his 3, he rallies with the Bruiser Star, which is good. You can see I did finally pick up that Yeti after he killed a few of the Heath Hunters down the bottom left. Yeah. And then also in my 3, I managed to I managed to break, not kill, but break the Rock, and he also rallied. You can see him back there behind the
Oh
Bruiser
damn!
Star.
How did wait?
I
Wait,
think he had.
you charged into the Rock?
I charged him with the Avatar.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, so he broke and ran away and then rallied. So now in my turn, so this is in his turn, and he I think is in a little bit of a tough spot here, right? He's getting surrounded. I bring the ancient around to start threatening those bombardier units, and he puts I think he shoots into the thicket beast and does another couple of wounds with the bombardier units, but not enough basically to change the outcome here. So so then we go into my turn 4, I guess it is.
Yep.
Yeah. So here I bring the thicket beasts and the avatar into the remains of the bruiser unit. I put the heath hunters into the rock because I see that if I can break the bruiser unit, then I can pursue away from the thicket beasts and then bring the avatar, following into the rock and fight 2 rounds of combat. I put the ancient into one of the bombardier units just to pin it there and stop it from shooting. And my archers honestly don't really have a whole lot to do otherwise, just kind of moving stuff up to claim the objective. So I think this might be the last picture, if I recall correctly. Oh, I guess one more. Okay, so now you can see the aftermath of this. Yeah, so we take off the Bruiser Star, the Avatar overruns into the Rock. We take the Rock off. The Ancient breaks and runs down the Bombardier unit, and the other one breaks and runs, and that's where we call it. And I guess it is like the bottom of 4.
And that's that equals a 20, of course. Ooh,
Yep.
rough game. Sorry, it's not toots. No toots. I feel like, wow. When you made this move where you moved up with the thicket beast in front of the tribesmen out of the arc of the bruisers, that didn't seem like that big of a mistake, but man, did that pay off. That that won the game, basically.
Yeah, I think that if I hadn't had that move, I think we'd probably end up sort of for a little while playing a bit of a cagey game around the hill, kind of pushing the objective for a couple of turns while I try to use my shooting to start depleting those blocks. And then, we have those big combats in the turn 5, 6 range. But this allowed me to basically make that happen early. I'll be honest, I hadn't actually gotten to see the Thicket Star in action, and so I was just sort of with most of his magic phase gone, I felt confident that I should be able to have them in a good position to win that matchup with the tribesmen. I didn't think that I would gut it in a single turn and run him off. I just thought we would grind there, but with no counter charges, I'm fine, and I have Druidism. I'm fine in a grind, right? Because I can kind of bring stuff back and win that. I think so. I felt like it was a pretty strong move, but yeah, agree with you.
Yeah, that's brutal. That is brutal. I guess I don't know. I don't think I would have seen that move. I think he just kind of felt aggressive on this flank with that unit, and he should have just wielded a little bit so you couldn't get out of his arc. But that was also giving the opportunity for your tree men to run out of the other arc, the other side of the arc. Ooh, that's a tough one, but it's a good win for you.
Yeah, I was. I think that turn 1 taking off the Pyro Mage was an absolutely huge deal, right? I think it just changes his win conditions, right? He can't really stand off against me after that, because I outrange him. So I think that made a big difference, and I was, it's basically the use case of that Deception Archer unit. I thought was pretty cool. So yeah.
All right, well, that puts you on 20. That puts me on 20. We'll see what happens in round 2. But we'll see you in the next battle report. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, everybody.